Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the dramatic, hilarious, and honestly highly debated life of 18th century Bengal's absolute most legendary figure.
We're talking about a guy who is a total captivating paradox. Think about it. What happens when a kingdom's greatest hero is, well, a fool? We're exploring the story of Gopal Bhar, a legendary jester whose incredibly sharp wit and courageous defiance are literally still echoing through culture and politics today. He was simultaneously the most famous person in Bengal and someone who might never have existed at all.
So to really understand this legend, we've got to look at his role as a Navaratna, or a nine-jewel, in the court of Raja Krishnachandra of Nadia. Back in the 18th century, Gopal wasn't just some comedian making cheap jokes, he was a serious intellectual force. The stories of his exploits are short, they're incredibly funny, but they always carry a hidden bite.
Okay, take this really famous local tale for instance. Legend has it that a very hungry, completely penniless Gopal walks into a sweet shop. He confidently tells the sweetmaker's young son that his name is literally Fly, and then he just starts devouring all the treats right there in front of the kid.
This is just classic Gopal Bhar. So the boy naturally yells over to his busy dad, saying, "Fly is eating all the sweets." And the father, totally assuming the kid is talking about an actual insect buzzing around, casually yells back to just let it be. Boom! Using nothing but his wit, Gopal outsmarts the situation, walking away with a completely full stomach and, you gotta admit, perfect comedic timing.
Now, the crucial thing to understand here is that his humor wasn't just for laughs. It always carried a specific social message. He was what we call a classic wise fool. Think of figures like Birbal or Tenali Rama. He had this brilliant, unique ability to point out the glaring flaws in authority. He could playfully roast everyday people, the super-rich elite, and even the king himself, all without ever crossing that dangerous line into direct disrespect that would, land his head on a chopping block.
But here's where things get really fascinating. Beneath all the laughter and the incredible stories, there's a massive historical debate, because a lot of experts claim this beloved jester was entirely a work of fiction. Yeah, no kidding. Despite his massive fame, the actual, verifiable historical footprint of Gopal Bhar is incredibly blurry.
It's this wild contrast between passionate family claims and just a loud silence from actual history. On one side, you've got a 1926 book by a guy named Nagendranath Das, who claimed to be a direct descendant of a man named Gopal Chandra Nai. He even pointed to an old oil painting in the palace as solid proof. But on the other side, prominent linguists like Sukumar Sen argue he's just purely fictitious.
Historians are quick to point out that contemporary records just completely omit him. Famous court poets from that exact time, like Bharat Chandra Raigunakar, wrote in deep detail about the entire court, but never once mentioned a Gopal. The Raja's own personal diaries? Totally silent. Honestly, the sources suggest Gopal might actually be a clever blend of local folklore and a real-life, incredibly brave royal bodyguard named Shankar Taranga.
But look, whether he was real, flesh and bone, a tough bodyguard, or just pure myth, his cultural footprint is absolutely undeniable. As the linguist Sukumar Sen himself noted, Gopal remains deeply, permanently ingrained in Bengali culture. And this legendary status really sets the perfect stage for his darkest and arguably most cinematic legend.
Because suddenly the laughter completely stops. We move into the incredibly heavy, politically charged atmosphere of 18th century Bengal, and our lighthearted jester is forced into becoming a tragic, heroic figure. The stakes literally become life or death.
To give you the timeline grounding this climax, the British threat is looming large. A massive conspiracy, led by figures like Mir Jafar, is brewing to violently overthrow Nawab Siraj-ud-Dowlah, and Raja Krishnachandra actually decides to join this treasonous plot. But Gopal Bhar, showing just incredible moral clarity, becomes the solitary, lonely voice urging his king not to trust the British or betray the Nawab.
Well, the Raja totally dismissed Gopal's warnings. In fact, he and his courtiers flat out mocked the jester for even trying to get involved in high-stakes politics. Angered by Gopal's opposition, the Raja cruelly dared him. He basically said, "If you're so smart, why don't you go to Murshidabad and make faces at the terrifying Nawab himself?"
So, to fulfill his king's dare, Gopal goes to absolute extremes. He travels there, but he can't get past the palace guards. So what does he do? He literally bites a guard just to get himself arrested and dragged directly in front of the Nawab. And once he's there, instead of speaking and risking giving away the plot, he simply makes these wild, mocking faces directly at Siraj-ud-Dowlah. He hid the treasonous plot entirely out of loyalty to his foolish king.
But Mir Jafar, who was standing right there in the court,
was absolutely terrified. He sees Gopal and instantly thinks the jester is there to spill their secret conspiracy to the Nawab. So to silence him for good, Mir Jafar swiftly orchestrates an immediate death sentence for Gopal.
So, with the execution officially ordered and the noose quite literally around his neck, how on earth did our wise fool get out of this one?
He did it by playing the ultimate fool. Right as he was staring death in the face, Gopal fell back on his trademark physical comedy. He started making such bizarre, utterly ridiculous faces at his own execution that the Nawab actually halted the whole thing. He was completely convinced that this man wasn't a master spy, but just a harmless, babbling lunatic, and he actually let him go.
It's an incredible escape. Gopal returns to Krishnanagar safely, having kept his king's secret and somehow survived. But, the victory was completely hollow. He got back only to find his king unswayed, still fully, stubbornly committed to the British conspiracy. Broken-hearted by this betrayal of his homeland, the legend says the jester quietly gathered his family and walked away into the darkness forever, literally never to be seen again.
He might have walked off into the night, but he certainly never disappeared. Even centuries after that mysterious vanishing act, his legacy is everywhere.
Just think about this number for a second. 1,000. That is the staggering number of animated YouTube episodes currently dedicated to his stories on just one single channel. It is absolute proof that his highly specific brand of humor and truth-telling still completely resonates with audiences today.
From a massive 1980 hit comedy film starring Santosh Datta to a huge 2017 television series, all the way to actual physical statues standing right now in his supposed hometown of Gorni Krishnanagar, the spirit of Gopal Bhar is deeply woven into the very fabric of everyday culture across both India and Bangladesh.
And it doesn't stop at pop culture. Today, his name is actually weaponized in modern political mudslinging across international borders. Just in 2024, politicians in Bangladesh used his name to mock their parliament, calling it a place of mere entertainment. Meanwhile, over in India, politicians invoke the legend of his death to launch attacks on the modern descendants of Raja Krishna Chandra.
Whether he's starring in a children's cartoon or being used as ammo in a fierce political debate, he remains the ultimate avatar of the common person, brilliantly outsmarting the elite. He is that essential voice that points out, the emperor has no clothes. And clearly, that's a narrative we still deeply crave and frankly still need today.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. When we look at all the laughter, the incredible defiance, and this massive, enduring legacy, does it really matter if Gopal Bhar was a real flesh-and-blood man with a birth certificate? Or is his physical existence far less important than the enduring power of his laughter, serving as this eternal symbol of truth-telling that we all still so heavily rely on? Thanks for exploring this amazing explainer with me.